A vida é muito louca, né, cara? Pensar que eu fui nessa viagem simplesmente pra jogar Invincible, conhecer uma galera lá. Eu queria conhecer ao vivo já há um tempo, né? Também aproveitar o evento que foi a Gamescom. E no final do dia eu saí com uma entrevista absurda com um dos meus comentaristas favoritos de Tekken, cara. É muito louco isso. Eu geralmente não pensava que isso fosse acontecer. Eu imaginei que tinha a possibilidade de eu conhecer o Rip, né? Naquele lugar, mas nunca que eu tivesse uma entrevista. Então, tipo assim... bizarro. Bizarro. Pra mim foi realmente um sonho, cara. Tipo, o cara é uma lenda, tá ligado? Eu conheço ele desde que eu comecei a jogar Tekken. Então, foi só meio que surreal. Teve uma hora que eu parei ali, eu fiquei tipo, caralho, mano, eu tô falando com o Rip aqui. Foi bizarro. Enfim, o cara foi muito gente boa. Foi um prazerzaço conhecer ele. E, obviamente, cara, aqui tem a entrevista que eu fiz com ele sobre o jogo, porque ele é Senior Combat Designer do Invincible Versus, então ele fez parte dos bonecos ali, tipo, em questão de design, né, de cada um, e como que esses bonecos são introduzidos para jogos de luta. Então a gente conversou bastante sobre isso. Foi um papo legal, foi um papo divertido, eu espero que vocês curtam também. E, cara, eu tô incrédulo até agora. Sinceramente, eu tô... Uma curiosidade é que o Rip ele já veio aqui pro Brasil, ele veio pro Rio, inclusive, porque ele foi fazer... Ele tava de férias, né? E aí ele foi fazer Asa Delta, né? E eu tenho uns amigos que trabalham lá e eles encontraram o Rip na época, tiraram foto com ele. Eu fiquei com muita inveja, então, tipo assim, a vida dá voltas, né? Curiosamente, foi engraçado isso. Só uma curiosidade mesmo.
So I'm here with Rip, Senior Combat Designer in Invincible Versus, and I'm a huge fan of his, so it's been a privilege to ask him some questions here about the game. First thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you think are the differences from Invincible Versus from other tech fighters?
Ooh. Well, I think the first big thing about Invincible compared to other tag fighters, if we're talking about like historically all time, I think there's nothing that's as brutal, right, as violent as a tag fighter as Invincible is, right? If you're looking at the modern age of tag fighters, though, I think it's kind of interesting because 2xKO 2v2, Invincible 3v3, Tokon 4v4, right? But I think even like that, it feels like to me that Invincible is the only one where like the assist can actually be killed off. So I think that's a really interesting way, because when I think of tag fighters, that's what I historically think of. I'm like, you got to kill all of their characters individually, right? 2xKO has that, but then you can still access the dead assist still, right? So they're like dead, but like half dead, it feels like. And then Tokon, you're always building your team up, but you're not really stopping the other people from being on the team. But you can't like, he's at 4, let me take him down to 2 characters or something, you know what I mean? So it's really interesting, but I think those are probably some of the biggest ways that were different, just the brutality and the fact that, you know, your teammates matter and can die.
I like the counter tag mechanic in the game too, right? Is it like you guys get inspired from other games from that?
Counter tag is specifically from the guys who made KI, right?
Yeah.
So like obviously the core team is from the Killer Instinct 2013 reboot, and those guys, they love that two-way interaction. So in Killer Instinct, it was very much like, I'm in a combo, but I'm always engaged. I gotta be looking for what button they're gonna hit. It could be a light, a medium, or heavy, and I can recognize that visually, and I can break it. Otherwise, if they think I'm gonna break it because I did like a heavy, then they can counter break it, and then there's like two-way mind game, right? So counter tag really replicates that whole system from Killer Instinct, but that's where it comes from. I don't know any other game that does that really, especially not in a tag fighter.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that mechanic on other fighting games, right? So, what can we expect from community feedback when balancing the cast of characters in Invincible Versus?
I mean, I think our team in general has always been really good with listening to feedback from the players. So when we're developing the game, like obviously the game just came out 3 days ago or something, right? But in the lead up to this game coming out, when we had the closed alpha, open beta, and even prior to all of that, you know, we go back to Evo last year, a combo breaker before that, we were showing off the game to the FGC behind closed doors. We were always listening to players' feedback and incorporating it into the game. So if you ask most of the players who were around back then what the game was like previously and where it is now, it is a completely different game. Completely different. And you know, that is gonna continue, right? The only difference now is that because the game's released, people have an expectation of what the game is, and so they're not gonna want as much change going forward, right? So we still have issues that we need to iron out, and we're still gonna be working on that throughout the rest of the year. So we understand, and we always are listening. You know, ears to the ground. I'm always been a huge part of the FGC, so I'm always on Twitter. I'm very involved. I see what everyone's saying. I relay that to the team. You know, it's up to the team at the end of the day, but I think in general, we're always trying to listen and give the players what they want.
Okay, for sure, man. Do you think Conquest could beat Paul in a 1v1 fight?
Paul Phoenix?
No, I mean Paul from the show. You remember Paul?
Which one's Paul?
Paul
Debbie's?
Yeah, Debbie's ex-boyfriend.
Yes. Why would Why would Conquest not be able to beat Paul?
You haven't seen this power yet? You gotta watch the show, man. You're missing out.
Paul has the power?
I mean, I see him beating Conquest in a 1v1. You don't? No? Okay.
No shot.
All right.
Conquest can die and not die, so I don't think Paul's got a chance.
Yeah. We'll see about that. Maybe we'll find out. Also, when designing a character, do you take inspiration from other fighting games, other characters from other fighting games, I mean?
I think that's kind of a natural thing that happens, right? Like, obviously, I've played a bunch of different fighting games. So I started with Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 1, forever ago, right? And then from there, it was Killer Instinct, and then Tekken came in, Virtua Fighter came in. So I played all of those games, right? I dabbled a little bit in Dead or Alive as well. Skullgirls eventually, Marvel. So I played so many fighting games that, like, eventually if I see something from a character, I'm like, that could be something like this, right? And a good example of this is Rex. Rex's forward special it reminded me of Ibuki's kunai.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing with Ibuki's kunai, though, she jumps in place and the kunai goes forward. So she lands on the same side. With Rex, I want him to go over. So, right, he's throwing a kunai and going over at the same time, right?
Oh.
So, and he can still attack afterwards. So it's kind of an extension of that Ibuki idea, right? There's other cool ideas for moves that I've kind of been inspired by. And this characters I've played in the past. Like, I'll say, for Duplicate, obviously she has a lot of her clones that attack. But I used to play Noob Saibot in Mortal Kombat 9. And I didn't, like, Noob Saibot in Mortal Kombat 9 was crazy, right? But some of the concepts of having that clone apply in the same way to Duplicate, right? So I think about the ideas and things that I liked about playing Noob back then and how I could apply it to this character and how it fits this character. But Noob and Duplicate, their fight styles are completely different. So you can't really just, like, one-to-one do anything with that, right? So it was way harder for Duplicate. But it ends up getting kind of like almost like a traditional martial arts background for Noob Saibot, in a way. That's kind of what Duplicate becomes.
Yeah. I think when I played Duplicate, I thought she, like her second super, I think.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Zeros from Marvel's Capcom, right? Yep.
So that second super was completely inspired by Ganejin from Yunin Third Strike, because what happened was I was building out her clones, her duplicates, right? And she had the shoulder one.
Yeah.
And at first it wasn't a shoulder, it was something different. It was like an elbow or something. And then I was like, oh man, once we turned into a shoulder, I was like, that looks a lot like Yun. I was like, wait a second. She can be like that, right? Like, she's got these clones, she can move through it, she can attack multiple times. So like, wait a second, that could be a cool idea. And so that kind of is where the idea started and built from to where it is now.
So I just beat the story. I play like.
I know nothing about the story.
I'm not going to spoil anyone about the story, right?
Okay.
But the highlight for me on the story was the animations. The animations were superb.
I know nothing.
Dude, you gotta play it.
Okay. So for the story, like, I'm a huge Invincible fan.
Yeah.
So I'm not on the story team, right? I'm on the combat design side. So I'm designing characters that will be in that and be AI, etc. for it, but I'm not in that story or the narrative or anything. So I specifically said, don't tell me anything. I want to play that later when the game comes out.
Okay.
So that's all it is. And I've heard a lot of good feedback. I know it's short, but everyone says, like, even though it's short, I loved it. So as an Invincible fan, I'm looking forward to playing that, like, when I get back home.
So as of right now, what characters do you think people are sleeping on? I know the game just came out and everything, but
yeah, I think it's a really interesting game because people have asked me who I think the top characters are.
Yeah.
And that to me is also not clear. Like, I think you can easily say, like, oh, Eve and, you know, currently Conquest, that's not going to be in the game long. You know, like, those kind of things obviously stand out right now, but the team's aware of it, so that's going to be changing, obviously. But characters I think that will take more time to develop, I think will definitely be someone like Duplicate. You know, I think right now, her Super 2 is really interesting because I've seen it in the hands of some players and they're starting to show the potential of Duplicate. I think Alan, I think people already know is pretty ridiculous right now. Titan, I think, is another character people may have slept on early, but I think they're starting to see the light. Lucan, another character I think is originally slept on, but people are starting to see the light of that character as well. He's kind of ridiculous. He's the only true grappler in the game as well.
I played Lucan yesterday and Titan. They're super, super good.
No, exactly.
Lucan, I was actually super surprised about it.
Yeah, I think other than those characters that come to mind, gosh, I feel like I need to look at a character select screen or something, you know? But Bulletproof, I don't know what people think of him currently because I haven't been following everything out there, but I feel like I don't see a lot of Bulletproof out there, but I know the character's super good. Yeah. Anissa, I think people have really latched onto her really quickly. That was one that surprised me because when she first came out, everyone said this character's whack. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing all the tech on Twitter. I'm like, people are flipping real fast. So that's the most exciting thing about the game coming out is that people are finding stuff out and we're watching it evolve naturally over time. And it's only been 3 days, so I think this time in a week or two, like it's gonna be completely different.
Okay. And my 2 last questions. First is what character that you like designing the most, or that you are still designing at this point, right?
Yeah, so my characters I'm currently designing are secret, but the ones that I enjoy designing the most have to be Rex, because he's my first character. And also, like, basically everything I sketched out for Rex basically made it into the game. Like, I think 90% of it, which is pretty rare. And then Duplicate, similar situation where it was a character that was so hard that we didn't even know if we could make that character because there's just technical limitations. Like, it's supposed to be a 3v3 fighter. You're supposed to only have 6 characters possible on screen at any given moment. All of a sudden, Duplicate has 3 clones out there. Now you're at 10 or something. And the other person can also have Duplicate out there. So now you got whatever, right? So that was a very challenging character because in designing it, we had to figure out how do you get these dupes off the screen? And we made up this, the concept of spend red life to send it out. If you can regain the dupe, you get the red life back, but how do you regain a dupe? Like, we had to come up with code to make dupe try to return to Kate. So that was a challenge. But then even with that, there was still a situation where we had too many dupes on screen. So then we had to start making dupes absorb dupes, and then they carry over that red life, and then the Kate can absorb both of them stacked together, basically. So all of that was like way more additional work than we had to do for any other character.
You guys rock. She looks great. Yeah. And my final question is, can we get my main Donald in the game?
Donald. Yeah, I think a lot of people want Donald. I think in general, it's interesting, right? Because so many fighting games have existed for so long that when the DLC characters come out for it, you've already seen those characters most of the time, right? Yeah. But in, like, for example, I'll say M. Bison Street Fighter, when he comes out, like, oh yeah, I've already seen M. Bison before, right? Or whatever it may be. Tekken just released Kunimitsu, right? So yeah, I've seen Kunimitsu before. Yeah. In Invincible, you've never seen any of these characters in a fighting game. So anytime we have a new character, it's like, oh damn, there's that character from Invincible. How does he work in a fighting? How does she work in a fighting game, right? So I think that is really neat. And I feel like there are so many characters in the universe, Donald included, who I want to see in the game, right? So I want to see like everyone from Invincible in. I see so many people online like, dude, that's gonna be so sick, add this guest character. I'm like, dude, there's so many characters from Invincible that we haven't gotten in the game yet, let's get those in first, and then let's start talking about everyone else. So I want to see everyone, including Donald.
Yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, I guess that's it, man. Thank you so much for taking your time for this interview. And again, this is a huge honor for me. You're one of my favorite commentators. And yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Olha, galera, deixa o like, se inscreve e ó, tamo junto, hein, pô, de coração.
E é isso, vocês gostaram da entrevista, deixa o like aí, eu tava meio despreparado um pouco, porque eu fui pego de surpresa, achei que ia falar com ele tipo umas 3 perguntas, acabei que eu fiz mais do que 3, não sei se vocês perceberam no vídeo, mas eu tava um pouco nervoso, né, também, então mas foi muito foda, cara, de verdade, foi absurdo, mas muito obrigado pela galera lá da Level Up, me ajudou muito com essa oportunidade, então tipo, Tech, pra vocês, todo o amor do mundo, mano, foi absurdo, cara, vocês foram muito legais comigo, então, coração. Enfim, deixa o like, por favor, se vocês gostaram. Comentem aí o que vocês acham. O que vocês estão achando do Invincible Versus? Se vocês estão jogando, se vocês estão acompanhando. Beijo do Prolo.